Welcome, everybody, to this special Christmas edition, Vintage Christmas in Louisville from WHAS11. I'm Doug Proffitt, along with our chief archivist, Joe Federle. This is a really cool scene you see behind us, folks. Take a look. That's the old Bix department store with all those lights up there, the Christmas tree. On 4th, just down from Bix, sits the Sealback Hotel, if that helps you locate exactly what we're going to talk to you about tonight. Joe, the great thing about our archives, as you know, you spend a lot of time of it, is we were recording film right after the TV station came on in the early 50s. And this is a piece about Louisville celebrating Christmas. What did we have back then that we don't have now?
Well, in 1950 to the 1980s, we had film. And in this particular piece that you had done a few years ago, we had a Christmas parade. Santa Claus was in it. You made the comment that you could shop on 4th Street along the whole way. You could go get lunch at the Brown Hotel, a hot brown, and then you would shop your way down the street. The department stores downtown had the Santa Claus you would go to visit. They had the beautiful window displays. People would go.
At Stewart's department store. That was at 4th and Ali. Today we have Light Up Louisville, but back then we had it was a citywide Christmas parade where the crowds just jammed around the street.
Oh, it was great. I mean, you could see everybody getting excited about Santa Claus. I mean, I think everybody from around town came to downtown. It was the center of everything. You had to come to downtown to see all the excitement.
So we know, Joe, that everybody at home has their own home videos and their own archives from great Christmases inside their house. So as a treat, we want to bring you from our archives, our own video news film of how Louisville celebrated Christmas in the 1950s.
Snow was in the air for Christmas in downtown Louisville, 1958. 4th Street at Ali was the focal point of major shopping. The crowds looked into the windows of Stewart's dry goods store across from the Sealback just to get an early look. The Christmas display at Stewart's was actually flown in from New York on American Airlines, with Santa lowered right out of the plane. And everything was ready to go. When the doors opened, they're off. The rush to get the toys before they sold out, like the Jack-in-the-Box or a rocking horse. Kids laced up ice skates, turning the parking lots into fun. No paying with your phone or a swipe, the cash registers rang you up for cash. Inside, you could also buy the GE Deluxe Toaster Oven, made right here in Louisville. Men, women, and children, girls in white gloves, dressed up to shop. The doors not swinging fast enough to get the crowds inside. The kids all lined up, behaving, waiting for Santa to arrive at Stewart's, delighting them with tricks. On one end of 4th, the Brown Hotel would serve up hot browns, and then you made a day out of it shopping up and down 4th Street. A giant Christmas tree stood outside of the Bix clothing store, also on 4th. The city celebrated Christmas with a parade. The Louisville Christmas Parade tradition started in 1920, and right here in 1960, Mrs. Claus and Santa riding their sleigh to huge crowds. Giant floats took over the streets, this one simply saying, "Hello." A time when people of all walks of life came together in one location. The city did it big. Merry Christmas.
You know, Joe, the amazing thing about that film is it shows you how people really embraced downtown Louisville then. They came down here and shopped. They were eating at the restaurants. The suburban flight had not started yet in Louisville.
Right. People loved it. I mean, that was the place to be. Everybody knew, not just Christmas, but all year round. That was the place to be in downtown Louisville.
Well, you know, Joe, speaking of downtown Louisville, one of the best traditions was coming downtown to Actors Theater for A Christmas Carol.
I used to go see this for years. I would love it. It's one of my favorite traditions at Actors Theater for decades, right?
I bet you didn't know Louisville had the second longest running Christmas Carol in America.
That's amazing. And in 2008, you did a really good package where you actually got to go on stage and talk to the actors.
Well, this is funny. I grew up going to it, grew up here, never knew it was the second longest until I was reading the New York Times. They had done a piece on the oldest productions in America of the Christmas Carol. Milwaukee was number 1, and they said Louisville, Kentucky, number 2.
And I know you said Charles Dickens spent a lot of time here in Louisville.
He did. He didn't really like the city. He thought it was a city full of pigs running rampant in the streets. Although he said staying in the Galt House, the original Galt House, not the one downtown now, was like as quality as any hotel that you could find in Paris, France.
And in 2008, you did this great piece about how they were adding a lot of music to it.
Okay, well, let's go back to the archives and see that piece. Thank you for finding it, Joe.
You know the story. It hasn't changed. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
More music!
But in Louisville at Actors Theater this year, when you watch the performance, it will be your ears that will notice how Actors is tweaking the classic holiday tale.
I get more in the real spirit of Christmas, which is a spirit of compassion and generosity.
We remind ourselves of how incredibly important this performance is, and then it feels good.
This year, it's the music that's getting noticed, and artistic director Mark Masterson says it's a major change for one simple reason.
The goal was to make it a little bit more special this year, to give a little bit more of a celebration.
A celebration of the season for the audience. In fact, they dramatically raised the number of carols being sung from an all-time low of just one song for many years to 16 this year. And there are other new additions.
There's an orchestra, a little band that plays, the characters go over, and there's a harp.
And the actors are getting a real vocal workout. They sing all of the songs live. William McNulty, Scrooge.
I think is a more moving experience for the audience than what we've been doing up till now.
Fred Major, the schoolmaster.
I think that this is a more communicative show than most I've been in.
And Ann Hodap, Mrs. Grigsby, Scrooge's housekeeper.
This gives me a childlike feeling about Christmas again.
You couldn't pull this off if you didn't like each other, is that correct?
Sure, I think there are times, yes.
Together, these three represent 61 years at Actors Theater in A Christmas Carol, first performed here 33 years ago.
When the set of A Christmas Carol was first built and placed on the stage here at Actors Theater in December of 1976, Louisville was in the first few months of school busing, desegregation. A major winter snowstorm was just a few weeks away from hitting the city, and gas was selling for 55 cents a gallon.
William McNulty has been in A Christmas Carol since 1976, its first year. He took over the role of Scrooge 6 years ago, and he isn't tired of it.
If you take this role seriously, if you don't try to get like cartoonish with it or caricaturish with it, the emotional journey is really, really extreme and profound.
Fred Major first appeared in 1982 and has played several roles in the Dickens play. He remembers his favorite line when he played Scrooge.
No, this is unfair. You can't do this to me.
This play in Louisville is not just a tradition for families. People come up to the players in malls and restaurants.
Do they ever recite lines back to you?
Yeah, well, bah humbug, you know, and God bless us, everyone. But also the interesting thing is that there are people who saw this, who came with their parents, you know, to the early productions and are now bringing their children to this one.
The Louisville play is the country's second longest running rendition of A Christmas Carol. So when that final song, number 16, is sung, they make sure they send the audience off with what else? Tradition.
And they sing back. I've seen them sing back and move and carry on. It's just wonderful.
And that was in 2008. It was a great piece talking about how it really has developed through time at Actors Theater of Louisville.
Of course, they don't do that production anymore. They've moved on from it, which is sort of a shame because I remember it year after year after year.
Great production, one of my favorite traditions.
So let's talk about the 12 Days of Christmas.
That's right. Well, it was 1979, and Ned McGrath, and he was the one who he went out to all the different places, the Louisville Zoo, the Louisville Ballet. He asked how much money it would cost to buy your true love, all the gifts that are in the song. He asked, of course, the Partridge in a Pear Tree. He went to the ballet to see how many dancers, how long it would take, how much it would take to rent the dancers. I mean, it was, you could tell he took a lot of trouble to go into this to make sure he did his research. And it's not, but this is $1979, so it wasn't a cheap thing either.
Well, Ned McGrath's a reporter that they hired from Detroit. He was an investigator investigative reporter, but he did amazing feature stories. And take a look. Here's what he put together on WHAS 11 in the 70s.
Boy, here it is, Friday afternoon. It's getting late, and I still haven't bought my wife a Christmas present. I just don't know what I'm going to get this year. You know, wait a minute. That's it. I'm going to get the 12 Days of Christmas. No, I'm not going to buy the record. I'm going to buy the 12 Days of Christmas.
The trick is to find everything. I'll start with day 12, and where else but the Musicians Union?
I'm in the market for 12 drummers drumming and 11 pipers piping. What's that going to cost?
Well, that's 23 musicians. Just a minute. $756.70.
For day 10, a quick stop at the Actors Theater.
Well, for 10 Lords of Leaping, you have to figure it on the base rate per model per day. So a model would get about $250 a day. For 10, that would be $2,500 to rent 10 Lords of Leaping for one day.
Next on the list, 9 ladies dancing. The Louisville Ballet can provide them, but for $750? Day 8 means 8 cows.
George, I'm looking for 8 maids of milking.
There's not 8 maids anymore. We have a milking machine that does the job of 8 maids.
Okay, what's that going to cost me?
Well, roughly between $20 and $25 an hour.
Days 7 and 6 at the zoo.
These are black-necked swans. They would cost you $150 a piece, and for 7 of them it would cost $1,050.
6 geese a-laying, swimming, $60. A jewelry store, naturally, for day 5.
Here we have 5 golden rings, 10 carats, solid gold, would cost you $142.50.
Day 4, back at the zoo.
I'm in the market for 4 calling birds. What can you do for me?
This is Cookie. He's a sulfur-crested cockatoo. Without his carrying cage, he costs $600. And so for 4 of them, it would cost you $2,400.
Does he talk?
What's the matter with you?
No French hens for day 3, but...
Hello, I have 3 Cornish hens here.
$447.
Turtle doves are a bargain, 2 for $4.
Now, pear trees are out of season, but you can get a good maple tree for about $50 a year, and we thought we were really in trouble when we couldn't locate a partridge. But then we found Guy Partridge. Now, Guy, what's it going to cost me to have you and the maple tree together on Christmas Day?
Well, I think you're kind of crazy about it, but, you know, if you really want something like that, it would probably cost you about $50 for my services.
50 for the tree and 50 for you.
Right. I'm not really inclined to be sitting in a maple tree, particularly on Christmas Day, but if you really must have something like that, it'd be about $50 for my services, 50 for the tree, and so forth.
Well, I've been checking over these figures a couple of times, and I still come up with the same thing. 5 figures, $11,967.67. That's about $11,957 more than I had planned to spend, quite honestly. Well, Katie, it looks like I'm back where I started from. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we could invite Guy Partridge over without the tree for dinner. We could call it the half day of Christmas. That's it. I'm going to give him a call. Ned McGrath, Action 11.
A fun way to think of the 12 Days of Christmas. He had to put a lot of thought and creativity behind that piece.
Oh, Ned was great. Of course, he replaced Byron Crawford when he left here to go to the Courier. I mean, and you could tell he did a great job himself.
Now, one of my favorite Christmases of all time, Joe, was the year we got the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, courtesy of Louisville Mayor Jerry Abramson. This tree was gigantic, and somehow the mayor had concocted a plan to have it flown into Louisville by a military helicopter.
Right. I think you said it was a Chinook.
Yes, it was. And remind me the year on this. I put the coverage together.
This is 2006. This probably will be the best visuals you'll ever see with the Christmas tree. A military helicopter with the skyline of Louisville in the background, carrying this enormous Christmas tree to be. They slowly lowered it down at 6th and Market, where the Christmas tree was.
We flew Sky 11 alongside of it.
Right.
So it was precision. This was big coverage back then because it had never been happened like this before, and the mayor had arranged all of this. And they took the tree to Waterfront Park, which wasn't finished yet, it wasn't completed, and dropped it From there, they had to put it on a flatbed, where they were going to bring through the city, which was even hilarious in itself because the tree was so big it could barely get under the traffic lights.
You told me the story how, I mean, it wasn't a cursed tree, but it certainly had some problems because you said even after that, it fell over.
Right. I'll tell you about why we called it the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. Let's take you back to our archives. What a Christmas year that was.
With the knobs of southern Indiana as the backdrop, the 65-foot tall, 40-foot wide Christmas tree took flight thanks to this Army Chinook helicopter. It would be a 15-minute flight to Louisville, and we flew right alongside in Sky 11. The tree seemed so small, its limbs barely moving, as if it weren't taking a beating at all. The chopper was working hard as well. The tree was heavier than first thought, as it passed right over the Ohio River and New Albany's Sherman-Minton Bridge. As we got different angles from Sky 11, we noticed the giant Norway spruce seemed suspended right in midair, the optical illusion as Sky 11 was moving alongside it. And right here, downtown Louisville appears in front of its flight path. Santa seemed to be enjoying the ride in the Chinook as well, sticking his head out occasionally to watch the scene down below. But you have to be wondering what drivers on the interstates thought as the Chinook and its unique cargo pass right over Waterfront Park, and then right over the Kennedy Bridge. The Waterfront Park landing spot came at the very last minute and much later than expected. That's because at the home of Scott and Debbie McCorkle, the owners of the tree, the crane and the tree got stuck in the mud before takeoff, forcing a sudden change in plans. So it was here that the helicopter started its descent, touching down on the east end of Waterfront Park. The Giant was finally on its side. After putting the tree on the bed of a truck in the evening hours, and with a police escort, the tree was trucked past Slugger Field and right down Main Street, where it didn't want to go easily. It got stuck in some power lines, causing one more delay.
So the reason why we named it here, the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, Joe, is we went through all of that. It actually took out some power lines and some traffic lights, as they got it to 6th and Jefferson. Then the next morning, it had fallen over in a thunderstorm. We had thunderstorms come through and it knocked it down. This poor thing that had been dropped by a helicopter, hauled through the city, tore down traffic lights. Then they stood it up and it fell over. And this thing the limbs were breaking off of it. And then they strung lights on it.
This is truly a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. I just love the visuals of it flying over downtown Louisville. I mean, it was great.
When you looked through our archives, did it get you in the Christmas spirit?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Any Christmas tree will get you in the Christmas spirit. I mean, this is a great one from 1958. I mean, I love the fact that Christmas has always been embraced by the city of Louisville. That's what all these stories show, from 12 Days of Christmas to 2006, the helicopter. What city brings in a Christmas tree with a helicopter? That's pretty impressive.
We only did it once.
That's right.
The mayor never lived it down. Thank you, Joe. And for Joe Federle, our chief archivist at WHAS 11, I'm Doug Proffitt, and we both want to wish you certainly happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, and thank you for watching WHAS 11 News.
Season's greetings from the staff of WHAS.